I am 97 years old, and these hands loaded 37 rounds into a Sherman tank in 12 minutes on a morning in France that I can still smell if I close my eyes. Burnt cordite, wet mud, hot metal, sweat. That's what June 14th, 1944 smelled like. And the Army says what I did that morning changed the way every tank crew in America loads a weapon. They named it after me, the Kowalski Load. I never liked the name, made it sound like some kind of wrestling move. But I need to tell you something. I wasn't a soldier, not really. I was a grocery clerk from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Polish Hill neighborhood. My father ran a corner store, small place, narrow aisles, tin ceiling, a bell over the door that rang every time someone walked in. I worked that store from the time I was 12 years old. I stocked shelves, I rotated inventory, I ran the register, and I was fast. Not strong, not tough, fast. I could spot an expired can from across the aisle. I could restock a shelf so quick you'd think the products just appeared there. My hands knew where everything went without me having to think about it. Muscle memory, they call it now. Back then, I just called it doing my job. When I got drafted and showed up to basic training, the other boys took one look at me and decided I was a joke. Skinny kid, glasses, hands that were built for cans, not rifles. They called me grocer. Very creative, right? I arranged my footlocker like a store display. Everything labeled. Everything positioned so I could grab it fast. My drill sergeant said I was obsessive. My bunkmate said I was strange. Nobody said I was useful. Not once. Then I volunteered for tank duty. Got assigned as a loader in a Sherman. And I'll tell you, the first time I climbed inside that turret, something happened in my brain. Something just clicked. Because I looked around at those ammo racks, those shells stacked in their positions, that cramped space where everything had to be within arm's reach. And I thought, this is just a stock room. A very loud, very hot stock room that can kill you. But a stock room. The shells were products. The racks were shells. And my job was the same job I'd always had. Get the right thing to the right place as fast as humanly possible. Now let me tell you about Normandy. Because the hedgerow country of France in June of 1944 was the worst place on earth to drive a tank. Every field was boxed in by these thick earthen walls, ancient hedgerows taller than a man, roots going down 6 feet. You couldn't see through them. You couldn't shoot through them. Every time you pushed into a new field, you were blind. And the Germans knew it. They'd been there for years. They knew every ditch, every angle, every place to hide a gun. In the 48 hours before that morning, our division lost 17 tanks. 17. Burning Sherman scattered across the countryside like funeral pyres. The 75mm gun on our tank could kill most things the Germans had, but only if you survived long enough to fire it. And German crews were faster, better trained, more experienced. The morning of June 14th, we were sitting behind a collapsed stone barn about 3 miles west of Carentan. Fog thick enough to taste. Ground so soft from rain that the mud sucked at our tracks every time we moved. Our commander, Corporal James Hewitt, was scanning through the periscope. Silent tree line, 240 yards out. Intelligence said at least 2 Panzer IVs and multiple infantry positions were in those woods, and nobody expected us to survive the morning. But I'd done something small, something nobody noticed during morning inspection. I'd rearranged the ammunition. See, the Army loaded ammo racks a certain way, mixed, random, whatever fit where. A loader was supposed to grab whatever shell was closest and make it work. But that wasn't how my brain operated. My brain thought like a grocery clerk. What's going to be needed first? What's the fastest hand path? Where does my left hand naturally fall when the breech opens? So that morning, before anyone was awake, I reorganized every round. High explosive shells on the left side of the ready rack, exactly where my left hand dropped after the breech kicked open. Armor-piercing rounds staggered on the right. Canister rounds in the sponson rack, marked with tape so I could grab them blind. I drew chalk lines on the positions, little white marks that nobody understood. Those chalk marks saved 4 lives. 08:47 hours. The first German machine gun opened up, rounds sparking off our front plate like angry hornets. Hewitt's voice came through the intercom, calm but tight. Gunner, tree line, 11 o'clock, 220 yards. Infantry behind logs. Our gunner, Sergeant Bill Marsh, traversed left, found the target, fired. The 75 bucked. The breech slammed back with a crash that rattled your teeth. Smoke filled the turret. Through the haze, Marsh saw the hit. Logs flying, bodies tumbling, and my hands were already moving. I didn't reach for the nearest shell like the manual said. My hand went exactly 6 inches left. Found the HE round I'd placed there that morning. Chalk mark under my fingertips. I spun it, rammed it home. The breech closed clean. Up. 3 seconds. Marsh blinked. Standard reload was 5 to 7 seconds, sometimes 10 under stress. I did it in 3. Second target, third target, each time faster. 2.5 seconds. The rhythm building. Identify, traverse, fire, reload. Every motion economical. No wasted movement. No searching. No hesitation. A Pac 40 crew was repositioning when our HE round detonated 8 feet from their position. Shredded the gun shield. Scattered the crew. A German half-track tried to withdraw across open ground. AP round through the engine block. The vehicle lurched, rolled, stopped. Figures bailed out. Marsh caught them with the coax. Then it got serious. A Panzer IV appeared at the tree line. Hull down, 280 yards. Its gun was already traversing toward us. This is the part people don't understand about tank combat. It's a race. Whoever fires first lives. That's it. No second chances. No do-overs. Whoever puts a round on target first goes home. Hewitt called it. Gunner, AP, track junction. My hand was already moving. The AP round was coming up before Hewitt finished speaking. I'd anticipated it, knew what was needed. Grocery store instinct. You see a customer reaching for the top shelf, you're already handing them the product before they ask. Up. Marsh fired. The round hit the Panzer's track, blew it apart. The tank slewed sideways, immobilized, gun swinging off target. Reload. Finish him. Another AP round. I didn't even look at the rack. My hand knew. Up. Second shot penetrated the turret ring. Smoke poured from the hatches. 5 kills in 4 minutes. But they weren't done. A second Panzer appeared, already aligned. Its first shot hit our right track assembly. The Sherman lurched. My head cracked against the turret wall. Hewitt was bleeding from his temple. We were crippled. Sitting targets. Marsh traversed right, found the Panzer. 240 yards. The German fired again. The round hit our turret side armor at an angle, glanced off. A gouge in the steel an inch deep, but no penetration. Luck. The kind of luck you don't get twice. I loaded. Marsh fired. The round caught the Panzer in the driver's viewport. The tank stopped. Burning. 6 kills. My hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from the repetition. Grab, spin, load, over and over. My shoulders burned. My back screamed. The turret was a furnace, past 110 degrees. Spent casings rolling under my feet. We pushed to 10 kills, 11, 12. Then I reached for the next AP round, and my fingers closed on empty air. The ready rack was empty. I burned through the ammunition faster than I calculated. The remaining rounds were in the sponson racks, awkward positions, down low, past the turret basket. Shells I had to crouch and fish for blind. My reload time went from 3 seconds to 8, maybe 10. 8 seconds is an eternity in a tank fight. 8 seconds is enough for a German crew to fire twice. And through the smoke, a third Panzer was coming, 200 yards, moving slow, patient. The commander was visible in the cupola, scanning. This crew had watched us. They'd waited. They knew we had to be low on ammo. 340 yards behind him, an officer named Ritter had been watching the whole engagement through binoculars, counting our shots, calculating our ammunition, waiting for exactly this moment. My hands were cramping. The shell slipped when I pulled it from the sponson. I caught it, loaded it, fumbled. 7 seconds, too slow. Both tanks fired at the same time. The round hit our upper hull at a shallow angle, deflected, screamed over the turret by inches. Our round hit low, dirt and debris, no kill. I dove back into the sponson, grabbed another AP round with hands that felt like they belonged to someone else. Loaded. Marsh led the target, fired. The round caught the Panzer mid-reverse, punched through the side armor into the engine compartment. Flames erupted. 3 figures bailed out. Ritter was one of them, stumbling, uniform smoking. Marsh tracked him with the coax. His finger hovered. "Let them go," Hewitt said quietly. 13 kills, 1 damaged Sherman, 0 casualties. I slumped against the turret wall, couldn't breathe. My hands were bleeding from the shell casings, from the metal edges of the racks. I hadn't noticed. 37 spent casings on the floor. I counted them without meaning to. Grocery store habit. You always count the inventory. The captain walked the battlefield an hour later, counted the wrecks. 3 Panzers, 2 half-tracks, a Kubelwagen. He climbed up on our hull, looked at me through the hatch. "You're the loader?" "Yes, sir." "How many rounds?" 37, sir." He did the math. His eyebrows went up. "That's not possible." "I know what the manual says, sir." I showed him the chalk marks, the reorganized racks, the system. Within 3 weeks they were testing it at Aberdeen Proving Grounds. Within 6 months it was official doctrine, taught to every loader in every tank school from Fort Knox to Fort Benning. The Kowalski Load. It reduced average reload times from 6.2 seconds to 3.8 across the entire armored force. 2 seconds faster. That's all. 2 seconds. But in a tank fight, 2 seconds is the difference between firing first and dying, between going home and being a burning wreck in a French field. Modern crews still train using my technique. The principle hasn't changed. Economy of motion, predictive positioning, muscle memory over conscious thought. The same things that made me fast behind a grocery counter made me fast behind a cannon. I made it through France, Belgium, into Germany. They gave me a silver star. I put it in a drawer. Went back to Pittsburgh, reopened my father's store, raised 3 kids, never talked about it. But I'll tell you this, I keep a piece of chalk in my desk, a little stub, worn down to almost nothing. My kids think it's for marking prices. It's not. It's the same kind of chalk I used that morning to mark the positions inside that turret, the positions that kept 4 men alive. And sometimes, late at night, my hands still move in my sleep, reaching, grabbing, loading rounds that aren't there anymore. The Sherman that carried us that morning sits in a museum now, Fort Moore, Georgia. The turret still has scorch marks on the barrel. The ammo racks still show my chalk lines. And every young loader who walks past it knows the name Kowalski. So I'm telling you this, you, the person listening right now. Maybe someone's laughed at you for the way you do things. Maybe they call you obsessive, strange, too particular. Maybe the thing you're best at seems small to everyone around you. Keep going, because one morning, in a place you never expected, the thing they laughed at might be the only thing that matters. The thing that looked like nothing might save everything. I was a grocery clerk. They called me Grocer.